Some objects don't just carry the past. Some are filled with darker secrets, even spirits. Sophia was obsessed with antiques. On a rainy day, she stumbled upon a dusty antique shop in a narrow alley. The air inside was dim, thick with the smell of mold and old wood. As she browsed the shelves, a porcelain doll caught her eye. Its glass eyes gleaming, its face frozen in an eerie, lifeless expression. "It's a special doll," the old shopkeeper said, his voice shaky. "No one's kept it for long." Ignoring the strange feeling in her gut, Sophia bought it and took it home. Carrying it in her bag, she felt a chill seeping out of it. When she got home, Sophia placed the doll on a shelf in her bedroom. That night, as she drifted off, she heard a faint rustling. She opened her eyes. Everything was quiet, but the doll seemed slightly shifted. The next morning, it was on her dresser. "It must have fallen," she muttered, though doubt crept in. Over the days, the doll kept appearing around the house. In the kitchen, the living room, even once in front of the bathroom mirror. One night, lying in bed, she heard a soft child's giggle. Her heart raced as she flicked on the light. No one was there. She rushed to the window. It was pitch black outside, but for a split second, a tiny handprint appeared on the glass, then vanished. She couldn't breathe. While brushing her hair in front of the mirror, Sophia sensed movement behind her. The doll was still on the shelf, but its head was turned toward her. She froze. Her trembling hands gripped the brush as she glanced back at the mirror. It was still staring. Then a whisper echoed through the room. "You brought me home. Now you're mine." The voice was muffled but unmistakably came from the doll. That night she lay in bed, unable to sleep. Suddenly she felt a weight on her chest. Opening her eyes, she saw the doll sitting on her, its glass eyes glowing in the dark. She screamed and hurled it across the room. It hit the floor, then instantly reappeared on the shelf. Losing her mind, she grabbed it, stuffed it into a box, and locked it in the closet. The next morning, she checked the closet. The box was empty. The doll sat on her dresser, its eyes locked on her. Desperate, Sophia muttered, "I have to get rid of it." She took it to the backyard, doused it with gasoline, and set it ablaze. As the flames roared, a piercing, demonic scream tore through the air. Not human, but otherworldly. When the scream stopped, the doll was reduced to ashes. Shaking but relieved, she went back inside. The following day, a knock came at her door. Her neighbor asked, "I heard strange noises last night. Are you okay?" Sophia forced a smile. "I'm fine, it's over." But when she returned to her room, her blood ran cold. The doll sat on her bed, pristine and untouched by fire. Its glass eyes glinted as its lips curled into a whisper. "You can't burn me. This is my home now." Sophia screamed, but her voice cut off. After that day, no one saw her leave the house. Neighbors say they hear childish giggles from the windows at night, but no one answers the door. Some nightmares never let go. Sophia thought she'd won, but the doll, it's still there, claiming the house, waiting. The screen fades to black, a faint giggle echoes. The dead are silent, but what if they're not? Ethan had lost his best friend Jake in a tragic car accident a year ago. Since then, he'd been trying to move on, but the weight of the past clung to him like a shadow. One night, as he sat alone in his quiet apartment, his phone buzzed on the coffee table. He glanced at the screen and froze. The name flashing was unmistakable. Jake. This can't be real, he muttered under his breath. Jake's number was still in his contacts, a painful keepsake he couldn't delete. But his family had canceled the line months ago. With trembling hands, he opened the message. "Did you forget me?" His blood ran cold. The timestamp read 3:33 a.m. He stared at the screen, heart pounding, unable to process what he was seeing. Ethan read the message over and over, his mind racing. He called Jake's parents first thing in the morning, asking if someone had reactivated the number. They were as confused as he was. No one had touched Jake's old phone. He contacted the phone company next, but the answer was the same. The line had been terminated long ago. He showed the message to his friends at a diner later that day. "Someone's probably messing with you," his friend Sarah said, sipping her coffee. "A sick prank." Ethan nodded, wanting to believe it, but the unease gnawed at him. That night, as he lay in bed, his phone buzzed again. Another message from Jake. "Why won't you answer me?" Attached was a photo, one Ethan remembered well. It was the two of them at their favorite cafe, laughing over burgers. But something was wrong. In the background, where there should have been a busy street, stood a blurry, shadowy figure. Its face was distorted, almost inhuman. Ethan's stomach dropped. He'd been there that day. No one like that had ever been around. The next night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He kept the lights on, clutching his phone, replaying the photo in his mind. Around midnight, the phone vibrated again. A new message. "Find me, Ethan." As he stared at the words, a sound broke the silence. A faint whisper from the corner of his room. It was soft, like a breeze through leaves, but the words were clear. "I'm right here." Ethan whipped around, scanning the empty room. Shadows danced on the walls, but no one was there. His breath hitched as the whisper came again, closer this time, brushing against his ear. "Don't leave me." He stumbled out of bed, nearly dropping his phone, and checked every corner. Nothing. But the air felt heavy, like someone or something was watching him. The next message came with a location pin. Ethan's hand shook as he opened it. It pointed straight to Jake's grave in the Old Town Cemetery. Against his better judgment, he grabbed his jacket and drove there in the dead of night. The cemetery was silent under a pale moon, rows of tombstones stretching into the darkness. He found Jake's grave, the familiar headstone etched with his friend's name. Everything seemed normal until his phone buzzed again. A new file had appeared in the chat, an audio clip. Hesitating, he pressed play. Jake's voice crackled through the speaker, faint and pleading. "I'm still here, Ethan. Help me, please." The words sent a shiver down his spine. Before he could react, his phone's camera turned on by itself. The screen showed Jake's gravestone, and standing in front of it was a shadowy silhouette, its edges flickering like static. Ethan's heart stopped. He was alone in the graveyard. He swung his flashlight around, but there was nothing there. The phone slipped from his hands, hitting the dirt. As it landed, the screen flashed one final message. "Too late." The screen went black. Ethan's scream echoed through the empty cemetery, then abruptly cut off. The next morning, a groundskeeper found Ethan's body, sprawled across Jake's grave, his eyes wide open in terror, his phone clutched in his stiff hand. The police were called in, cordoning off the scene. They recovered the device and examined it, expecting a simple explanation. A prank, a hacked phone. But the records baffled them. The messages, the photo, the audio, all traced back to Jake's old number, a line that had been disconnected for over a year. No fingerprints but Ethan's were on the phone. The audio file, when analyzed, matched Jake's voice perfectly, down to the inflections his family recognized. Yet the phone logs showed no outgoing signals, no data usage, just incoming messages from a dead line. The case was quietly closed, filed as an unexplained death, but locals still avoid that corner of the cemetery. Some say, on quiet nights, they hear whispers near Jake's grave and see a faint light like a phone screen glowing in the dark. They say the dead don't forget us. But the real question is, even if we forget them, will they ever let us go?